fighting for his life here. He's fighting for his freedom here. These cases, these criminal cases, not the one in New York, not the civil one in New York.
That's money.
That's just money. Well, that means a lot to him. These cases can put him in jail for the rest of his life, and I think probably will.
Trump will reportedly deliver. I'm sorry, it's hard to even read. Trump. Okay, let me read it with a straight face.
You can do it.
Possible. It's not possible. It's not possible.
You can just
will reportedly deliver part of his New York fraud closing arguments himself. Willie, my God, the gods, the cable news gods.
This will be the best closing argument anybody's ever given.
Down from the heavens to all cable news executive producers wondering what they're going to do. Well, forget cable news, the late night comics, Willie. Oh, my God, late night comics are going to have a field day on this.
Well, you know, he does believe that he is his own best representation, that he alone can fix it. So I think he probably thinks he is so persuasive and so charming that if he got face to face with a jury, they would come around him, or he might just threaten them. He could go either
attorneys. And this is the hat George Conway gave me to give you, Joe. I feel bad for them as they watch the closing arguments on Thursday as Donald Trump delivers them. And by the way, we're reclaiming the red hat. You've made this one. Mine says know your value.
All right. So there you have it. Good times from not that long ago, right? That was, of course, MSNBC having a good time. That was January of 2024. So it really wasn't that long ago. And of course, that's when Donald Trump, unfortunately, was in trial in New York City with that Alvin Bragg case. They were definitely counting Donald Trump to be out, and they were having a fantastic time with it, right? So I just hit the go-go buttons. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment, introduce yourself. Feel free to leave me a comment. If you have any type of audio issues or other questions, put it in the comment bar, and I will get to it just as soon as I possibly can. I want to say hello from the beginning to my friend American Nana. I can always depend on you being here, and I appreciate you being here with us today. We have a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a great show, and I have some clips that I think you are all going to find very interesting. Let me just do my final checks and make sure everything is operating the way it should be operating. Quick note, I was fortunate enough yesterday to go with my love, Rosemarie, and we went over to the Tampa Zoo. I've been to a lot of zoos in my day, been to a lot of different, recreation things like many of you probably have been to over time. And I'm going to tell you, the Tampa Zoo here, I think they technically call it Zoo Tampa, or maybe it's reverse Tampa Zoo, but it is a great zoo. I was really impressed with it. I really enjoyed myself. And I'm certain that Rose did too. And we took some pictures while we were there. Let me see if this one shows up. There we are right there. They had a really cool dinosaur type exhibit. The picture might look a little funny because I got the filter on for the green screen, but I think it turned out pretty cool. So she's off work for a week or two and might as well make the best of it. It's the way I say it. So we had a good time. And American Nana, thank you. I appreciate you letting me know everything's good to go. All right, looking good. Hello to everyone on the Twitch platform. We always have a friend or two over there. And, of course, everyone on YouTube. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead. There's a lot going on in the news, a lot going on. Always, it seems, right? One thing about Donald Trump, he never disappoints. There's always something to talk about, something to review. And, folks, let me tell you, we got to make sure we do not let our foot off the gas, not even for a second. So, for y'all that may not know, or if you're new to the program, I appreciate you being here. And, of course, all the returning subscribers, thanks for being here. Of course, I am J.R. Dukes. This is the home of the free-minded patriots. This is where the woke joke, the truth prevails, and the battle for your freedoms is fought and won. This is the battlefield. You can always find me, of course, right here on YouTube at the intersection of justice and transparency. Or you can simply remember my website is www.jrdukes.com. And of course, most of my handles are at jrdukes. The only exception is the Twitter/X platform, which is Reach JRDukes. So if you have any questions, any comments, you can always reach out to me, drop me an email. My contact information should be in the description box below. So, welcome to this episode of The Woke and the Wacky. I kind of like that title. I think that's very appropriate for what's going on in our country as of today. We are living in a time where the left's madness is still echoing through every corner of our government, the media, the culture. And President John Trump is doing everything he possibly can. He's using every single ounce to his advantage. Even during this government shutdown, he's turning it around to where it benefits America first. While the Democrats on the left, these woke Democrats, are tripping over every delusion they're having, and they're out there trying to reshape America into something we do not want. We have President Donald Trump out there making sure he restores sanity. He is definitely proving that common sense still wins in America. So today we're going to pull back the curtain on the latest round of wokeness, this wacky insanity. We're going to talk about the lies, the so-called the woke media continues to feed us every single day. They fed us for 4 years, the so-called, hey, Biden is in perfect health. And of course, we all knew the truth. I was talking about this well before anyone else was talking about it. Those of you who have been with me for a while already know all of this. And I'm finally glad now there is a serious conversation going on, basically saying, hey, what happened and why did we allow this to happen the way that it did? Remember how gleeful everyone was for Donald Trump to be in prison? And unfortunately, I am so happy that President Trump did win, because unfortunately, had he lost, there is not a doubt in my mind that our great president would be in Rikers Island right now, serving a very lengthy prison sentence. You know it, I know it. Again, when you have 34 Class C felonies out of the state of New York, and he was sanctioned, I believe, 10 times by that judge, so-called Judge Merchant there, there's really no other choice that he has other than to send a president, even a president of the United States, a former president at that time, to Rikers Island. Thank God that did not happen, because let's face it, our country would be in terrible shape right now. We would not recognize the country we're living in right now had that election went the other way. The so-called legacy media told us Biden was sharp as ever, even though the truth was clear to every American watching. They lied, and now they are very busy trying to rewrite history and acting like that they did the right thing under the conditions that were existing at that time. And we all know that is a bunch of BS. We're also going to talk about some good news out of Washington today. It happened just in the last few days, and that is that President Trump did grant clemency to former representative out of New York, George Santos. Again, we've talked about him on this particular program. It's another reminder that this administration under Donald Trump understands redemption and fairness far better than our friends on the woke left ever did. We're also going to take a look overseas. I love Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. How do you say your name? Meloni. It's like baloney. Meloni. Yeah, there we go. Giorgia Meloni. She stood her ground and fired back against some of these leaders over there trying to lecture her about smoking a cigarette, and that she should somehow give up cigarette smoking. I kind of like the clips that I got together, because after we watch this, I think you're going to have a very high opinion of her, as I do, and as President Donald Trump does. And folks, the message coming from this prime minister out of Italy was really simple. And those of you who are my age probably remember this. She was saying, I am woman, hear me roar. And that's exactly what she did. And again, one of the clips I have is really going to endear you to her if you don't like her already. So I think there's 2 or 3 different clips I have about her. And again, I really, really appreciate the leader she is. She clearly is walking hand in hand with President Trump. I believe she also wrote a foreword for for Donald Trump Jr. in his newest book that he has out. The title of it escapes him right now, but she, obviously there's a lot of collaboration going on between this Italian prime minister and the Trump family. And you're right, American Nana. Helen Reddy did sing that song. It was a good song. I remember singing it with my sisters when I was a kid. So it's just one of them things that is kind of timeless, right? And of course, we're going to talk about this ridiculous No Kings protest, this nonsense, the irony of the crowd chanting about no kings while bowing to these media elites who lie and gaslight us every single day. Every day they're lying. Every day they're trying to gaslight us. And look, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to make sure we always expose it for what it is and make sure that we tell the truth. The only good thing about all that is it gives us on this particular channel a lot to talk about. And of course, finally, it wouldn't be a J.R. Duke show if we didn't talk about my favorite people, specifically what I'm referring to now as the Lawfare twins. Who are they? It is Letitia James, who I now call, she's the AG. So I call her AG. It's not Attorney General. It's American Grifter. And of course, our favorite DA out of Fulton County, Georgia, sweet Fannie Willis, DA, no longer District Attorney here on this show. It is now the Democratic agitator, Fannie Willis. And together, they are the twins of lawfare. We can add to this ever-growing list James Comey and the new DOJ referral that is now targeting the former CIA chief, John Brennan. It's about time. Reckoning is coming. This has to do with basically lying to Congress, and we're going to take a look at that today on the program. All of this, my friends, is proof that accountability is finally catching up with those who abuse their power. So buckle up, because the woke and the wacky are being exposed. President Trump, thank God, is still in control, and we're all going to break it down right here on this show today, hopefully with some serious facts, a little laughter, and some common sense that is unfortunately in very short supply today in our country. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Let me switch our screen over here so we can share together. All right. Let's take a look at our friend George Santos. There's a short news clip, and we'll talk about it in just 1 second.
The next several hours as we break down all of your top stories and live events from across the country and across the world. Right now, I do want to take you out to a breaking story that we are following at this hour. Take a look at your screen here, and former Congressman George Santos has been released from prison just hours after President Donald Trump announced that he had commuted the New York Republican sentence. Santos's attorney, Joseph Murray, tells me that his client was freed from the federal correctional institution Fairton in New Jersey just before 11 p.m. Eastern time last night. Murray saying, quote, "They were just waiting for his family to come pick him up because the facility was in a remote area. Once his family arrived, he walked out and got into the car and they drove home together," end quote. Santos was serving more than 7 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to fraud and identity theft charges. He was sentenced in April after admitting last year to deceiving donors and stealing the identities of 11 people, including his own family members, to make donations to his campaign. The 37-year-old reported to prison in July after pleading guilty there to wire fraud and aggravated identity.
Now, there is a little bit to talk about on this particular case of George Santos, so bear with me. I have some very important points I want to point out, and there's a couple things that you probably do not know in relation to this case, because I haven't heard anyone on the mainstream press at least talking about it. So we just got a little bit more here, then we'll get into it.
He served fewer than 3 months of that 87-month sentence. He will also no longer be required to pay more than $370,000 in court-ordered restitution to those victims. That is according to a copy of the records posted online by Ed Martin. Now, he is the U.S. pardon attorney. This cuts Santos' sentence short, but does not wipe out his conviction. Santos posting on social media after being released here. You can see that on your screen, by the way. His page was actually operated by family members and friends while he was in prison, so it was still active. But he said, "God bless President Donald J. Trump, the greatest president in U.S. history. I really have to thank Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who fought like a lion on Georgia."
And that's what we're going to take a look at in just a second. The MTG, as I refer to her, Taylor Greene, was instrumental, in my opinion, to securing his release she wrote a letter to President Trump, and I have a copy of that letter, and we're going to take a look at it together here in just a second.
Behalf, also to Representatives Lauren Boebert and Tim and Anna Paulina, Congressman Matt Gaetz, whom I was in regular contact with, as well as the greatest DOJ team ever assembled, including Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, Associate Deputy Attorney General Diego Pestana, Deputy Director.
While I'm letting this play out, the bottom line is this. Obviously, as you can imagine, he's extremely elated and very happy to be free. And basically, when he was in prison, he was not having a good time, as you might imagine. But what you need to understand here is that this was not just about, hey, Donald Trump's his BFF, so he went ahead and released him because he wanted to. There's a little bit more to it that we're going to take a look at together. And the short version is as follows. This man was being tortured inside that prison, not because he did something wrong, but because of who he is. He's given several interviews about it, and MTG has been instrumental in making sure that she brought all of this to the attention of President Trump, because he is, or I should say was, a congressman. They wanted to make sure he was not killed. Apparently there was some type of threat against his life. He was actually picked for termination, if you will. There was a contract out on him, something to that effect. The information is somewhat a little sketchy, a little unclear, but clearly there was an active and is an active FBI investigation into whatever this plot is to kill Santos. So they basically kept him in isolation. And I got a lot to say about this isolation that I'll get to in just a second. Here is a clip that I found that kind of gave a prelude to what was going to happen. All right. This is back from the end of last month. And we see here on the screen, you have MTG and Santos. Says Atlanta, Georgia, U.S. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene says former New York Congressman George Santos is being held in solitary confinement as he serves out his 87-month sentence of federal prison. Santos, 36, I believe he's now 37, pleaded guilty in April to charges of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft and is currently being housed at the FCI Fairton, New Jersey prison. Green took to social media on Monday saying Santos has been in solitary confinement for nearly 30 days. My friends, that is the definition of torture. That is one of the many problems with this case. They say it's for his safety due to threats, Green wrote in the Post. I'm told he's in a cell 24 hours a day, and he's only allowed out to get a shower 3 times a week. This is torture, she continued. And on your screen, I hope you can see it. I'll try to blow it up here a little bit. On X, she actually posted a letter she received from Santos showing the conditions that he's in. Now, listen, I want to be really clear because I can already see the emails and whatnot I'm going to get in. I'm not excusing his bad behavior. He definitely, obviously committed crimes. He committed felonies. He committed fraud, theft, whatever the actual charges were. He has to be punished for that. There's no question about that. At the same time, you can't torture a man just because of who he is. And I think that that is what kind of facilitated this pardon to happen so quickly. Briefly, it says on this X post, former Congressman George Santos has been in solitary confinement for nearly 30 days for his safety, is what the allegation is. I'm told he's in his cell 24 hours a day and is only allowed to get a shower 3 times a week. Here is the actual drawing. They you may or may not be able to see it clear enough on your screen, but the bottom line is they were showing, this is Santos's own handwriting, showing his cell with other people before and then showing what he has afterwards as a result of simply being George Santos. It's a 9-by-6 cell with 1 solid bed in the middle of the room, and the toilet and sink are the same thing. And that's what he was held in constantly. I don't know. It just sounds rough to me. I'm not a person that necessarily wants to see prisoners go free or see bad behavior unexcused. But I'm just telling you, in this case, this is wrong. This violates the Georgia, what do they call it? The different conventions that they've had over the years. The Geneva Conventions is what I'm thinking of, against solitary confinement. If we had a prisoner of war under our custody, we would not be allowed to keep a prisoner of war in the exact same conditions that Santos Santos was being housed in during his stay there. It's really just that simple. And I've had people before ask me, well, I don't get it. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be punishment. And I get that, and I'm sympathetic to that. But I submit to you, it's not supposed to be torture, not for these type of crimes anyways. And this is clearly torture. It is deprivation of his sensory organs, his sight, his hearing. It's just wrong and inhumane. And if you think that I've lost my marbles on this particular subject, fine, no problem. But before you arrive at that conclusion, I encourage you to test it out. Go into your own bathroom, lock yourself in there with no phones, no anything, no communication, no iPad, no phone. You know where I'm going with this. And just try it for 30 minutes to an hour. And you can't sleep, by the way. You have to be awake. I think you'll get the idea. And imagine that he's in that type of situation 30 days at a time plus. I mean, it's really inhumane, and I'm glad that it's been brought a stop to. Briefly, we're going to take a look at this letter. This is the letter MTG sent to Congress it's on the Congress of the United States letterhead. She sent this to the pardon attorney for Donald Trump. In brief, she's writing to request that your office urges the president to commute the sentence of former Congressman George Santos. In April 2025, Mr. Santos was sentenced to 87 months in federal prison for his wire fraud and aggravated identity theft charges. I wholeheartedly believe in justice and the rule of law, and I understand the gravity of such actions. However, I believe a 7-year sentence for such campaign-related matters for an individual with no prior criminal record extends far beyond what is warranted. As a member of Congress, I worked with Mr. Santos on many issues and can attest to his willingness and dedication to serve the people of New York, who elected him to office. He committed himself to serving his constituents and did whatever it took to represent their interests in Washington, D.C. He is sincerely remorseful and has accepted full responsibility for his actions. Furthermore, my office has spoken with a pastor of his who discussed the regret and remorse Mr. Santos, agreeing that the sentence imposed is a grave injustice. While his crimes warranted punishment, many of my colleagues who I serve with have committed far worse offenses than Mr. Santos, yet have faced zero criminal charges. And that is a true statement, ladies and gentlemen. I strongly believe in accountability for one's actions, but I believe the sentencing of Mr. Santos is an abuse of overreach by the judicial system. Commuting his sentence would acknowledge the severity of his actions and simultaneously provide a path forward in allowing him to make amends for his crimes and strive to better service the people in his community. I respectfully request you to urge the president to commute his sentence, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty well the gist of it. And fortunately, he was granted the commutation that we were discussing. Now, one of his BFFs, of course, as you can see on your screen, is former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is on the OIN network now. I believe it's One American News. And by the way, I like that news site if you care to check them out. They are definitely conservative, very conservative news gathering slant, if you will. Let's take a look at this interview. I think Santos sounds like he's trying to change his life. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But let's take a peek at it, and we'll talk about it.
George, it is so great to have you back on the program and out of prison. How has prison changed you?
Prison was rough. 41 days in a special housing unit known as a SHU in isolated confinement was not something I thought would happen. That's when you really take a lot into perspective, and it's a very sobering moment. And I got to tell you, I'm looking back and hearing clips of me just literally 3 months ago prior to going to prison. And I can tell you, I was intoxicated by a poison called hate that when you let fester inside of your soul, it can lead you to absolutely chaos. Now, to you as a former colleague of mine, and we were together in Congress, and I say this to everybody, I'm sorry for my...
I have to interject here. I don't know if y'all noticed or not, but the parrot on his right-handed shoulder off in the corner there just for some reason kind of cracks me up. I've always liked this guy. He's a little odd, but there's something about that parrot that just seems appropriate for George Santos. I don't know.
My past transgressions, and I have a complete new mission and outlook in life for the future, thanks to President Trump. I mean, without him today, I'd probably be sitting still in Camp Ferriton over there at the FCI Ferriton under the gazel eyes of the awful Warden Kelly. But today I'm home. I'm with my family. As you can see, my macaws are.
He definitely does not like the warden. He calls her out by name 2 or 3 different times. We'll see where it goes, but he plans on dedicating his life to try to reform the criminal justice system, which, of course, I think is a noble goal.
Behind me. I mean, it's you just, there's no money in life that can pay for this. This is what wealth looks like, being home with your family and your loved ones around you. And I got to say, thank you to President Trump and to all those involved who worked tirelessly. And I know you're amongst them, Matt. So I just want to say thank you for that. And the future now holds is it's all about, for me, reform. It's going to be an immense amount of work on prison reform, on helping troubled youth, because I can tell them by firsthand experience, you don't want to go to prison. It is not worth it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm dying to ask what the names of the macaws are, but you mentioned something that I think a lot of people didn't know. You spent a good percentage of your time incarcerated in solitary confinement because the FBI was investigating a plot to have you murdered in prison. And I know that having worked with your lawyer on the matter. So how did you learn of this alleged assassination plot directed at you?
Well, this is a plot that had been already investigated in 2023 when I was in the House by Capitol Police, found out to be credible, and it resurfaced. And my attorney, Joe Murray, didn't know about it. And to his credit, he did the right thing. He reported it. In his mind and everyone's mind, is the warden would make protective measures, but instead she just applied disciplinary measures and called it protective custody and put me in CHU. I spent nearly half of my time in prison in solitary confinement, 41 days out of 84. And solitary confinement at the hands of Warden Kelly at FCI Ferriton is 3 baths a day, 1 call every 30 days with your loved ones, visitations, one visitation every 30 days while you're full in shackles. You have no access to real hygiene. You have no access to clean clothes. What they call clean clothes is recycled underwears that we all just share and is thrown into a washing machine.
Were you in shackles, George? Did they put you in shackles?
They actually put me in shackles with a chain on my belly, with my actual wrists tied to that chain to them, and my feet. It was something I never thought I'd experience. I mean, that's what you usually reserve for violent individuals, and they gave me the full works.
You were in for OnlyFans and Hermes purchases to like members of the House Steering Committee. Shackles seem like a bit much. I do have to ask this though. Were there any good moments? Did you make any friends? Were there any ways you were able to tend to your mental health in a positive way?
So my mental health was actually essentially obliterated. Under this facility did not even keep me on medication that I've been on my whole life, like Vyvanse and some other mental health medication that really helped me with my ADD and whatnot. So to say that they're in...
Am I the only person that is surprised, zero, that he was on any type of medication? I mean, I have to tell you, I like the guy. I don't know why, but I do like the guy. And I know it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not surprised at all. This guy definitely probably needs some medication.
Confidence is an understatement under the gazel eyes of this woman. But
matter of fact, there's plenty of people probably think I need medication, but that's another subject.
To tell you that my biggest struggle was mental health would be an understatement. It was my only struggle, really. I had no physical harm threatened against me. My biggest threat was the treatment I received while in solitary confinement. And I think that speaks volumes, because if they can do it to me, somebody with a platform, a former public figure with relationships that spent from the House of Representatives all the way to the White House, if she's comfortable doing this with me, can you imagine what she's doing with other minority people who are under her custody that don't have that same opportunity? So this is why I want to take this and do something with it for the good.
Well, look, prison is not supposed to be a comfortable ride. I think we can all agree with that. It's just not. I mean, it's not designed to be a picnic, if you will. It's designed to punish. I guess there's a theory that it's designed to rehabilitate certain individuals, but clearly it's not supposed to be some type of stay at a fancy hotel. Having said that, I don't want to go too deep into the woods on this, but I do believe that people that are in prison should be taken care of to a certain standard. When I hear about these prisons being ran for profit, there's a profit motive, they're being privatized or whatever. And listen, I'm a capitalist. Y'all know that. I love capitalism. I love competition. I think it's great. There's just something that just gives me the heebie-jeebies when I think of being admitted to a facility that is there to make a profit for their shareholders. I just don't think I'm going to get the care that I should receive if I'm there. I mean, again, that's just my take on it. If you agree or disagree, please put it in the comments. But for George Santos, he is out. I'm going to take a look at some of the comments here in 1 second. I know there are some very thoughtful comments coming in about this. My prepared marks are as follows. I've said for a long time in this program that solitary confinement has no place in the United States of America. It's psychological torture, plain and simple. It even violates the Geneva Conventions that we've been talking about. George Santos may have made mistakes, but what happened to him went far beyond punishment. It's not punishment, ladies and gentlemen. It is now persecution. I would argue it's even torture. They threw him in a hole, cut him off from everyone, and made an example out of him because who he is politically. And that's not justice. That's vengeance. So yes, I am proud that President Trump stepped in and commuted his sentence. I give credit to Marjorie Taylor Greene for bringing this matter to the attention of the White House, specifically President Donald Trump. Because at the end of the day, America is supposed, or at least we're supposed to, in theory, be better than this type of behavior, be better than vengeance, be better than torture. That's what we should all aspire to. Justice should be fair and not selective. At least that's my talking points, if you will, on this particular subject. What say you guys? Let's take a quick peek. Mark, my friend, Sapphire Ridge News, thank you for being here today. American Anna, I don't think President Trump should have let him out of jail. He should have done 3 years. It's not about the political party. It's about the crime. He did the crime. He should do the time. I think that's a perfectly valid statement, American Anna, and it's okay. You know, on this program, folks, you don't have to agree with me. I can assure you of this. If I showed up for these videos and all I was doing was saying what I think everyone wants to hear, I wouldn't do it because I don't think that benefits you. It definitely doesn't benefit me. And if I, on some level, don't think I'm making a difference, at least getting people to free their minds, as I like to say, which basically means thinking for yourself, I wouldn't be doing this because that's a waste of my time and your time. And that's not what I'm about. Someone like American Anna, I've had conversations with her many times before, even on subjects we definitely don't see eye to eye on, and that's okay. We have an understanding that all opinions are welcome. You're welcome to have your opinion. I'm welcome to have my opinion. And I appreciate you sharing yours, American Anna. Thank you so much. My friend Mark says, my view is that while he deserves punishment, but not over punishment, if he would have been, I can't even read my screen here. If he would have been, it would have been over punishment. Yeah, I agree with where you're going with that. Say I can't stand MTJ. However, she made the right call here. And Mark, I can echo those sentiments myself. At first, I don't know that I cared for her, if I'm being honest with you. And then I started liking her a little bit. She was definitely supporting President Trump, and I liked the things she was doing and saying. More recently, however, she's kind of went off on, I don't know what you'd call it, out in left field, complaining about the subsidies for the Medicare, or what do you call it, the Obamacare extensions, those subsidies. I mean, she's been really spewing some of the points that the woke left has been going off on. And I get it. She's got kids. She's concerned about their premiums going up. But I mean, there's a whole lot to talk about there in this so-called Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Again, I don't want to go down that hole right now, but it doesn't affect the majority of Americans. It's actually just a small segment of Americans. And folks, listen, we all want free stuff. What human being doesn't want free? But the reality is the government just can't keep giving money away and giving money away and giving money away. That bill has to be paid. We just cannot keep giving free everything to everyone, where we take care of you from the moment you're born to the time you die and we put you in the ground. It just can't be done. And that's kind of where she's going with this right now. So, and I think there was one other thing she was really chaffing me the wrong way on. I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but it's been 3 or 4 different things that she's been kind of getting on the deep end right there. And I'll have more to say about that as time goes on. American Anna says, I didn't know all that. Yeah, well, thank you, American Anna. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. And Sapphire says, yes, last week she said all illegals deserve amnesty. I did not hear that, but considering it's her, I wouldn't put it past her. And remember, I have no problem with someone having an opinion that's different than mine, and that includes MTG. I mean, I get it. Everybody's got their own opinions, and I think the key here is to constructively state those opinions and find solutions where appropriate. Otherwise, at the end of the day, we just have to take a vote and we have to go with it, right? Isn't that what it boils down to at the end of the day? That's the way that I look at it anyway. So let's continue on. I have a video here of our great president. This is going to show you the reason why me, especially, just love President Donald Trump, as I'm sure many of you do. This is President Trump hosting the other day the Australian Prime Minister, and they're sitting around the table there in the, I'm not sure what room this is, but where they have all the cabinet meetings, whatever. They're sitting around, they're talking, and you see President Trump right there. Apparently, the way I understand it, there is an ambassador or some right-hand man, if you will, of the Prime Minister of Australia that was across from the table. At any rate, this person made comments or said things that basically say, hey, I don't like you, President Trump. And what's funny about this is we get to hear what President Trump's response was. I love it. I love it. Here we go. This is President Trump responding.
Please, go ahead. There's been concern in Australia that it's taken 9 months to get this meeting. Have you had any concerns with this administration? With the
now, listen, you can't hear him that clearly, admittedly, the way the audio is on this particular tape. However, you will clearly hear President Trump's response, and I've already pretty well told you what was said that brought this about. So continuing on.
Palestine, climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about him? Don't tell me. I don't know. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President.
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will. Go ahead.
Here it is again.
I don't like you either.
I don't like you either, and probably never will. I don't know. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's one of the many reasons we love President Trump. Not that we need another reason, but that's one of the many reasons that we like President Trump. I just think it was spot on. That's exactly what we needed him to say. This is exactly why we love our President John Trump. When this official, one of their own ambassadors, cabinet members, whatever this individual is that they're talking about, apparently he had the nerve to badmouth President Trump, and it didn't play well. Now, Donald Trump obviously is not technically a politician. I don't know. Maybe he is by now. I mean, he's been in office before. Whatever. He did not come from a political background, but rather a business background, as we all know. But he didn't play politician. He looked straight at the other side and basically eye to eye said, I don't like you either. Now, folks, that is leadership. That's honesty. That's a man who doesn't care to bend to these global elites or sugarcoat anything. He just tells us the truth, the straight truth. And that is one of the many reasons that so many of us love and respect the strength of President Trump. He's decisive, unapologetic. That's the kind of leadership that we all respect and the world respects. I mean, we probably never see another politician like President Trump, at least in our lifetimes. He doesn't care if what he says rattles you. He doesn't care. When he speaks, you know exactly where he stands. And I submit to you that this is something that America has been lacking for far too long. Now, next we're going to talk about one of my favorite people overseas, and you see her right here on the cover of her new book. And this, of course, is Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. What an incredible leader she's turned out to be. She's strong, unapologetic, and grounded in faith, family, and freedom. The same values that President Trump stands for. You can see why they respect each other so much. Meloni isn't afraid to speak the truth to power. She doesn't bow to global pressure. She carries herself with a certain poise that real leaders have, a confidence that a real leader must possess. She's exactly the same kind of ally that America needs, and we need these type of allies badly. Someone who loves her country just as fiercely as President Trump loves our great country. And to that I say amen and amen. Let's take a look at this together here, and we will talk about it. Here is the book, and this is what I was talking about earlier. The foreword was written by Donald Trump Jr. The name of the book, I Am Georgia, My Roots, My Principles. And this was posted on True Social by President Donald Trump. It says Giorgia Meloni, the great Prime Minister of Italy, has written a new book, I Am Georgina, My Roots, My Principles. Georgina is doing an incredible job for the wonderful people of Italy. And this book explores her journey of faith, family, and love of country, which gave her the wisdom and courage required to serve her nation and make her people proud. She is an inspiration to us all. Get your copy today, right? Nothing like the President of the United States to help you sell your book, right? I think that's great. So let's take a look at what transpired recently that has made me even more endeared to this Prime Minister. And we'll take a quick peek at it. This was in the Gateway Pundit. Up in smoke, Italian Prime Minister Meloni, his good looks and smoking habits made headlines during the peace summit in Egypt. This was that summit, I think it was that Carmel Sheikh or something like that it took place in. At any rate, Meloni, between Erdogan's worries and Trump's praises, I think it was Erdogan that started making these kind of silly comments when you get right down to it, but she had a great response. Once again, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni stole the spotlight as she attended the Sharm el-Sheikh peace summit in Egypt after the historic Trump brokered agreement signed between Israel and Hamas. Italy was a minor player in the grand scheme of things, but Meloni's charm and good looks, not to mention her smoking habit, made her the center of attention. To begin with, Meloni became a target for Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan and his so-called anti-tobacco crusade. He told her he would help her stop smoking, and she started again after quitting for 13 years. It says Political reported, and this is their conversation, and we're going to watch the video here in just 1 second. You look great, but I have to make you stop smoking. This is what Erdogan said to Meloni. According to footage published by Italian Daily, we'll see it for ourselves here in a second. But French President Emmanuel Macron, who was next to them, was quick to dash Erdogan's hope. It's impossible, he said laughingly. And then Meloni goes, I know, Meloni said, adding a warning that quitting smoking might make her less sociable. I don't want to kill somebody. Look, we're going to watch it together and you make your own judgment about it. The way I looked at this video, I think it was the perfect response from a leader like her. You have Erdogan's, I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. I don't like to play these identity politics. She's a woman, he's a man, whatever. But let's be straight up about it. If she was President Trump and he was smoking a cigarette, you would not have this type of response from Erdogan, the Prime Minister, President of Turkey. But her response was classic. She basically told him, I don't want to kill somebody. And the way I took it was, you try to stop me smoking, you might end up dead. I just think it was a perfect, playful way of putting this. So let's without further ado, let's take a look at the video and see how well we can hear this.
I saw you coming down from the plane.
Uçakta inerken görmüştüm
We are right
sizi.
together.
Beraber geldik intikal ettik havalimanına.
See, they're turning to the translator to get a translation. That's why she looked back towards the camera here. So let's play it for you.
Her şey yolunda.
İyi gördüm.
Oh, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
Ama sigarayı bıraktırmam lazım.
Okay, he's speaking Turkish, obviously, whatever they speak in Turkey, and you could hear the word cigarette. It's the same in many languages.
But I have to make you stop smoking somehow.
I know.
All right, so she goes, I know, and she starts to walk away. And see if you can hear it. This is when she says, I don't want to kill somebody.
I don't want to kill somebody.
I don't know if you can hear that or not, but
I don't want to kill somebody.
I don't want to kill somebody. I don't know. It struck me as hilarious. All right, well, that was the end of that particular clip, but I think that was absolutely perfect. Moving on. This is from the New York Post, and it just kind of recapping it, but I thought this was cute with the picture of her smoking a cigarette. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni joked she would kill someone if she had to quit again. I just think it's class. I mean, this is classic recognizing human behavior and handling it accordingly. President Trump praised. Beautiful. Meloni's looks during Monday's Gaza summit in Egypt. I think her looks, and you've probably seen it on TikTok and some other platforms. There's many memes of her looks, her rolling her eyes. That's kind of went viral. Personally, I find them hilarious. Here's a video I found. This video is why she is popular. Listen to this with me. You're going to love this. Here we go.
Yo soy Georgia. Soy una mujer. Soy una madre. Soy italiana. Soy cristiana. No me lo pueden quitar.
I love it. That's exactly right. Walking like a female boss. I like it. I want to just tell you what the words were at the beginning. She goes, I am Georgina. I'm a woman. I'm a mother. I am Italian. I'm a Christian. And they can't take that away from me. I mean, what else can you say, right? Amen to that. Amen and amen. What do you guys think about that? You on the same page with me on that? I think it's pretty obvious that that's the perfect way to handle that type of a question. I don't know. It works good for me. And you're right, Sapphire. She is a female version of Trump. At least she aspires to be. But I won't take issue with that. I think that comment is exactly correct. What a great ally. One of the things that I definitely like about her is, I think it's in this next video. Let me share this with you, because it's not that I'm a fan of President Biden. We all know that. I'm not definitely not very pleased with Biden and any of the nonsense that he put this country through. But this is the video here. Let me see if I have it in here. Let's watch this together and we'll talk about it.
Because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever. Do you know?
Yeah, this is kind of like two videos in one. I believe this has the clip that started me really taking notice of Georgina here. She's just a sharp, classy woman that knows how to use her feminine side and definitely knows how to be the boss. And at the same time, we're getting another recap here of this no kings nonsense that I got plenty to say about. All these people, again, with their gaslighting, trying to tell us how great Biden was. Don't believe your lying eyes, but we know better. So let's continue with this.
So long, she knew so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
Yeah, we know what great shape he's in. I want to show this to y'all so you can see. He's going to blow this up. Take a look at this right here. This is when I first started liking her. We probably all remember this particular video clip. You see President Biden walking off, looking like he's lost, doesn't know what's going on. Looks like some patient that just got lost and escaped, if you will. And she very, very classy, in a classy way, goes over and gently edges Biden back to the group. Let's take a look at it together, and you tell me if you see it as clearly as I see it.
Graphic memory, his
Here it is.
understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
See, that's what I'm talking about. There's no way that a man could get away doing something like that. Not in that particular manner. She knows how to use her feminine side in just the right way. And ever since that day, I've always taken notice of her. So, amen to that. I mean, she's really good. Let's continue watching this as we talk about this no kings nonsense. And we're going to move on to a couple more subjects here.
Is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp. They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed.
Biden is state lead. He comes with gravitas.
There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake. Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. That doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this obsession by the right.
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want
can't stand him.
Is to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly.
You can chalk all this up to one thing. Don't believe your lying eyes. The same crap, the same nonsense they've been telling us back starting last year for 4 years is, at least for the last 3 years before that, is kind of the same thing they're telling us now. They're still telling us, don't believe your eyes. Things are terrible when we know they're going better or they're going great, or at least we're moving in the right direction. I'm so sick of these woke Dems and their lies and their nonsense. And we just have to keep calling it out, my friends. That's all we can do is stand up to it and just call it what it is. It's wrong. It's evil. You need to love this country first and do what's best for us first, even if it's painful. We cannot have ever a president that is diminished in any form or fashion. And all these people that covered for him, look, I get it. On one hand, you're trying to support your team. You're trying to support your boss. I get that. I mean, I do. I can see the justification for that. But when it goes this far, you have a duty to your country, a duty to your family. You have a duty to God to call it out for what it is, to ring the alarm bells and make sure that our country is protected. Can you imagine what type of problems we'll be having today if, God forbid, that we were to have another President Biden, if that debate never happened, if he never dropped out, and if he would have won? Oh my goodness, that just really, you talk about something for Halloween to keep you up at night. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. That is extremely scary. All right, let's continue with the No Kings. There have been a ton of funny videos online, and President Trump, the king of trolling, the king of being able to message things properly and appropriately. Well, he did not disappoint, not even for a second. He knows how to take something. It's the old adage of making lemonade out of lemons, and that's exactly what President Trump, among other things, is nothing short of a master to do. And listen, by the way, while you have all these people, allegedly all these people saying that we don't want a king, I can't help from getting away from just the irony of the whole situation, if you will. These woke Democrats, the Democratic Party, this is the same party that basically coronated Kamala Harris on the ticket. They didn't technically have an election. They did not have the party primary. I'm thinking of the word here, but you know what I'm talking about, where they get together, the convention. They didn't have a convention for her technically, in the truest sense, they did not have an open election like the Republicans did. And yet we're supposed to be the people with no king or with a king, and they're protesting no kings. I mean, come on, get out of here. I remember I was in trouble around last Christmas because I had, well, it wasn't last Christmas. It was 2 months before that. I had the gall of asking questions like, does Kamala Harris have some type of alcohol problem? That got me in trouble on YouTube. They were clamping down on free speech. They were clamping down on people raising questions that are legitimate. They were doing the bidding of the Biden administration, the woke Democratic Party. They were going online and making Facebook and these other companies take people off or take their post offline that they did not agree with. President Biden was the one who wanted to come up with their truth police and decide what is true and what is not true. And there's no such thing as that. It doesn't exist. You would think the truth is easy. It's something that you can easily objectify, but that's not the case. Unfortunately, it's not. It's really kind of messed up when you think about it. Truth should be truth, but it's not. They went after our free speech. They went after our gun rights. They said anybody that disagreed with them was effectively a fascist or somehow trying to undermine the government. Look what they did to the protesters on January 6th. And the news is still coming out about that. Clearly, the FBI under the Biden administration went in to the January 6th protesters and egged them on. Attack, get in there, do whatever you got to do. And then they hunted those people down for 4 years and giving them serious prison sentences. And most of them simply went in there and just kind of walked around. I mean, you talk about a king, that's the kind of behavior that a nation under a king is subjected to. These people really, really went after our rights. You name it, they did it, especially free speech. They persecuted through lawfare our great President Trump, raided the house of a former president of the United States. You guys get it. I'm not going to continue on that diatribe, but we got to talk about how our president makes it funny. Here is a video online, and this is, you probably have heard about this, at least in some circles. This is one of these AI generated things where you have the president supposedly flying one of these military aircraft. Let's take a look at it together. But you got the president flying, and look what he's dropping as a king. He's dressed up as a king, and he's dropping it. To say the least, they were not too happy about this. Matter of fact, I got a clip where the Speaker of the House was questioned about this. Let's see what he had to say. I thought it was pretty funny. And this was from our friend Benny. He posted this here. Actually, he reposted it from Eric Daughtry's site. But it says, Speaker Johnson responds to a reporter asking why President Trump posted a video of him pooping on the No Kings protesters. And you had a pretty straightforward response from Speaker. Here we go.
That the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people.
The President uses social media to make the point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, they're in one of these photos. I think there's a picture of the president hanging in effigy by a noose on one of these. The one on the far end. I mean,
you got to hand it to Speaker Johnson. He knows exactly how to line it up and come up with a good response. So here's another one that was posted by Vice President J.D. Vance pertaining to President Trump. Let's take a quick peek at this here. I thought it was kind of cute. Got to be careful with the music again, but you can see it there. Trump's putting the crown on his head. Got his sword out like he's Excalibur. And then, of course, that's a video of the Democrats bowing. That's Nancy Pelosi. You got Chuck Schumer behind her, and they're bowing at that mosque. Can you believe that nonsense? That was it. I thought that was a very clever way of putting these clips together along with some AI footage in there. Fantastic. I think that's great. Kudos Kudos for them to produce that. Can you imagine a Speaker of the House that you see on your screen right there, Nancy Pelosi? You have then Majority Leader Chuck Schumer behind her, and these are American leaders, and they're in a mosque bowing. I mean, come on, folks. Look, we all have freedom of religion. One thing that really gets me upset really quick is when people try to distort the facts. The United States is a Christian nation. We will always be a Christian nation, period. Just that simple. That's the problem with this Muslim nonsense that's going on. I have no problem with Muslim people. I have a problem with all these Muslims coming over here that we're just opening the doors and letting in the country. We have looked on my program many times and discussed this many times about the mess that's growing on right now in Europe because all of the Muslim immigration that they have. You had that, what was that, Prime Minister Merkel from Germany? She let in 2.5 million Muslims at one time. I believe they immigrated from Syria at that time, if memory serves me correctly. And now it is a complete mess. You have downtown London. You have the call to prayer coming out 5 times a day. We have that going on here in the United States in certain parts. And that has to be stopped. It's not a question that they're Muslim. The problem is, hear me clearly, folks. Hear me very clearly. The problem is these people will not assimilate into the American way of life. It's really just that simple. They won't assimilate. And I believe it was Charlie Kirk that said, when you have people that come over and they refuse to assimilate in our culture, that's not immigration, that's an invasion. And I wholeheartedly agree with that 100%. I think President Trump is taking actions in relation to what we just got done talking about. But I'm telling you, this is a very serious problem right now in our country. It's a serious problem in the world. And folks, we need to stop trying to be nice about it. You know, let's be straight up about it. I've said many times on this program, when you look like me and someone starts talking about race or talking about this or that, you normally just shut up, right? Not me. No way, no sir, not anymore. I just don't care. I'm much more concerned, while I'm able to do so, to speak out and call a spade, call nonsense, nonsense. I think it was President Trump I heard not long ago saying that's one of the beautiful things about the world is that there are different countries with different cultures. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Muslim people should live in Muslim countries. That's my opinion. It's constitutionally protected, and I won't back off that. I'll call it what it is. I grew up in a place right outside Chicago called Bridgeview, Illinois. I went back to visit family there not long ago, and you would not recognize Bridgeview, Illinois. I believe they have the largest mosque, what are they called? The largest mosque there within so many states. I mean, it's enormous. It's huge. I can't believe it. When I'm driving around there, walking around there, it looks like I'm walking around in Syria. I mean, it's just insane. This stuff has to be called out for what it is, an invasion. It has to be stopped. Period. Full stop. And we're going to talk about that in this program. That's one of the most terrible things going on in the world right now. You have Christians being killed in Africa, as I'm speaking right now. A ton of them. I believe it's on the Congo. We will talk about it on this program. In Europe, you have the destruction of Europe. People are getting very upset, and rightly so, over all of this uncontrollable Muslim immigration into the European Union, which includes Great Britain. It is an invasion, and we are at risk of having the same thing here in the United States. It would be totally different if these groups would come in and assimilate into our society, adopt the American way of life, but they do not. Look at all these No King protesters and just different protests you see in different areas coming out and coming out against Christians. You have that one guy over, what was that, in Michigan somewhere? The guy's a pastor, and you had some sitting superintendent going after the guy because he was Christian and he wanted to pray at a game or some kind. It's nuts. It's nuts, ladies and gentlemen. It is very serious, and I pray that we all start taking it as the serious problem that it is. In relation to that No Kings protest, we have a lot of iffiness going on too. You have a lot of people. This was something off MSNBC. Says right here, this is on the site, the Patriots Oasis breaking. Analysts are calling this one of the biggest frauds in American history. MSNBC falsely aired a video from 2017 claiming it was live footage from yesterday's No Kings rally in Boston. MSNBC purposely wanted to portray a massive turnout for the No Kings, which is a lie. So we're going to take a look at this clip real quick.
Yes. Millions of people across the country marching as we speak.
Yeah, this is a lie.
This is Boston. Look at that. We'll continue to follow these rallies throughout the day here on MSNBC.
That's not true, folks.
Look at this. Millions of people across the country marching as we speak against the policies of President Trump. This is Boston. Look at that. We'll continue to follow these rallies throughout the day here on MSNBC.
All right. Well, that, as you see on your video right there on your screen, this video is from a 2017 Boston protest, not today's No King rally, which was indeed a large event with tens of thousands attending per reports, but it was not the video that you're looking at. There's a lot of nonsense and fraud going on, ladies and gentlemen. Don't buy into it and don't believe it. And plus, a lot of the protesters in the videos that I have seen, well, I'm not going to bother describing these people much, but to say the vast majority of these people look like a bunch of old hippies, a bunch of crazy, nutty, woke libs. I mean, I really don't know else how to describe it other than to call it what it is. And of course, switching gears ever so slightly, we have this continuing, seemingly endless saga of the woke Democratic Party shutting down our government and continuing to keep it shut down, which of course is an abomination and is complete, utter nonsense. I firmly believe what the Republicans have been saying, and that is that this is basically Chuck Schumer afraid to face a challenge from AOC or just other members that may decide to come up and want to come up and challenge him for whatever position. Look, these people are crazy. These people are nuts. I said it the other day, we need to end the filibuster. You cannot govern a country like the United States requiring a 60-vote majority, at least when it comes to funding the government, keeping the government open. There's no way to continuously maintain 60 votes. That's not what our founding fathers intended. We talked about that on our last program. It was only designed to have a supermajority like that for like treaties and certain things like that. It was never intended for these self-imposed, self-righteous supermajorities, and it needs to end. And I pray that it ends. Let's listen real quickly to.
And it's also important for us to note, this is the first time in history that any party has had the audacity to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. This is a political stunt, and it's the first time it's been done. And it is the most costly, most selfish, most dangerous political stunt in the history of the United States Congress. Because as we have stood here day after day after day explaining all the Americans who are being harmed by this nonsense. And the Senate Democrats have.
And it's not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. There's no end in sight. When this first started, I had my suspicions this was going to last a very long time. And unfortunately, there's no end in sight. We'll have to see exactly where this goes, but it looks like it's very painful. But never fear, because you would think, oh, this is killing President Trump, right? President Trump is in deep trouble over this government shutdown. Don't believe that for a second either. Painfully for our friends over at CNN, they had to come out and admit the truth.
About Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating, we're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
Ouch, right? That has to be very painful for the Democrats to realize that it's not even affecting President Trump. Amen. Amen to that. Now, we're going to pivot very hard to talk about something that I find simply fantastic, and that is Judgment Day is coming for many people that need to be judged, need to be held accountable for the things they've done to this country, and frankly, a lot of things they continue to do to this country. I've been saying for a long time that I wanted President Trump to take the high road in relation to revenge, getting people back, to rise above the political games and just focus on rebuilding the country. But at some point, ladies and gentlemen, justice demands accountability. That's the best way I can say it. And that time is now. President Trump is finally going after the people who weaponize our justice system. And who am I talking about? Fani Willis, Letitia James, James Comey, and others. I'm thinking in my mind, Alvin Bragg, even Judge Engoron. A lot of these people, there needs to be a serious investigation. These are people that are supposed to be interested in serving justice, but instead they use the law to serve revenge. They use the law with the intention of destroying it and destroying the people they wanted to take down. What they engaged in wasn't just politics, it's what we've now called lawfare, and it's a cancer on our nation. For years, the left has twisted the legal system into a political weapon, and it all started, unfortunately, under Joe Biden. And that is the one thing I cannot get over in relation to Joe Biden and out of all the nonsense he and his collaborators engaged in, that is the one thing I just really can't get over. Now, President Trump is doing what real leaders do. And he has to do that. And that is restore balance, restoring fairness, and sending a message that when power changes hands, those who abuse it will be held accountable. And you know what? I don't care whether they're acquitted or convicted, because the point isn't revenge. It's justice. It's about putting the rule of law back where it belongs, in the hands of the people, not the politicians. The media can call it revenge. They can call it revenge all they want. They can keep chanting it. They can keep screaming about it. I don't care. But what it really is, I would call it a reckoning. That's right. This is a reckoning. And for all this, again, we need to thank President Donald Trump. Now, who are these people that are in serious crosshairs, if you will? Well, you're looking at them. Here is on Jesse Waters' page, New York Attorney General and Trump hater Letitia James was just caught harboring a wanted woman. I have a ton of stuff coming out very soon in relation to Fani Willis and Letitia James, as we have been talking about. Let's take a quick listen to this, and we will talk about it.
Look at lawfare. Look no further than Big Tish. Tish is in some deep-ish. She's under indictment, charged with bank fraud tied to a house she bought in Virginia. She told the bank it was her primary residence, even though she lived in New York. Tish thinks this is her Trump comeback story, though. She's ready to fight.
Somebody says she thinks she's like a new 1960s era civil rights leader, which of course she's not, but that's a perfect description. She's in for a rude awakening, friends.
I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job. I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up.
Please give up.
And soon I will not be free.
Tish wants to ban lawfare only when she catches a charge. Too late. CNN says she deserves it.
But let's also not whitewash history here. Letitia James did essentially the same thing to Donald Trump.
Amen.
She ran for office explicitly targeting him. She fundraised on that. She brought a lawsuit that ultimately was gutted, not quite entirely dismissed, but mostly reversed by a liberal appeals court in New York State.
Even Michael Cohen says it's a slam dunk.
The documents will speak for themselves, and I'm certain that they have the documents that they need. I believe a first-year law student can actually take these cases to full trial and be successful.
This isn't lawfare. It's fair law. Prosecutors didn't Frankenstein a phony charge to take Tish down. They just followed the code on the books. Now the tables have turned, and it's a competition over who can be the left's biggest martyr. Tish can't blame anybody but herself. Her house is not in order, literally. According to the Times, the person living there is Nakia Thompson, Tish's grandniece.
Yeah, she's never even been to this house, according to different published reports that I've read. Never even been to this house. This woman is considered sophisticated. She's a lawyer. She knows better than to sign legal documents that apparently bear her signature. She's going to have to give an account for it. And now she's harboring fugitives that are technically family members. Can you believe this? Someone go after a former president of the United States for basically nothing. They're made up charges, folks. She made up different stuff, and along with Judge Engeron and others, kind of twisted and molded. And after she got a huge verdict, she tried to prevent Donald Trump from even being able to put up a bond, which is required under New York law, so that he could take it up on appeal. She did everything to stop Trump. And I can't think of it happening to a nicer woman, right?
Who told the grand jury in June that she'd been living there in the $235,000 three-bedroom property since 2020. The Daily Mail caught her walking out on camera. Primetime did some digging. Nakia's rap sheet is longer than a CVS receipt. It's so big it
That's
spans
her grandniece
two
or
states.
something right here. You see on the screen.
First in North Carolina, according to the state's Department of Adult Correction. Nakia was a very bad girl. 2005, simple assault. 2006,
Boy, Jesse's like me. He can't wipe that smile off his face. You notice that? He's happy.
assault against a government official. 2011, another assault against a government official, plus trespassing. Then Nakia got 60 days behind bars and was playing whack-a-mole with cops. But she didn't clean up.
I think the deal with her charges, in case you're curious, the reason they don't go and get her, which they may change their mind now, is when there's a warrant issued in a particular jurisdiction or a particular state, it's generally one of two categories, something that's extraditable and something that's not extraditable. And even if they will extradite, some states will only go to neighboring states in order to pick someone up, so to speak. So that's probably what's going on here. But I can tell you this, it might change. They might change her warrant to something they would extradite under. Hey, it is what it is, right?
She transitioned. She's become an absconder. That means she fled the state to avoid
There she
arrest
is right there.
and moved to Virginia, where the Daily Mail caught her on the porch. Nakia even landed a gig working for her great auntie's 2018 campaign for AG. And according to her LinkedIn, her title was seasonal representative.
The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is when you start down a path of fraud and you have investigators looking into you, generally when they find one thing, it's not difficult to come up with something else. And that's what's happening to sweet Letitia James right now. You have clearly one obvious crime if the paperwork is what it appears to be. And as they investigate, it's going to be easy to start checking off boxes for other crimes. What does she do? Or who's living there? Is this person wanted or not wanted? Is she harboring a fugitive? Did she report any income that she may have received from the property? And if she didn't report income, why not? The thing that I'm thinking about is, let's say I didn't get no income from my grandniece. I just let her live there rent-free. Really? Well, did she take any repairs or depreciation for that property off her taxes? See, then you start getting into tax fraud. Then you might have a problem with insurance related to the house. Was there some type of insurance fraud that was committed? It just starts to snowball, and that's very unfortunate for sweet New York Attorney General Letitia James. A recent article in the New York Post put it this way: this is a mortgage fraud document New York Attorney General Letitia James signed that has her facing 60 years in prison. They are claiming if she's convicted on these charges, she has a real risk of 60 years in prison. Can you believe that? That's a long time. And don't think you won't get a long prison sentence out of something like this. I've repeated many times on this program, the couple on the other side of the county I lived in, they committed some type of fraud by not reporting a sinkhole that was on their property, and each one of them, a husband and wife, and they're older too. They were like in their 60s. Both of them received a federal prison sentence of 20 years apiece. Ain't that something, huh? I like this post right here. Tell us more, Miles. 2017. Comey will get Trump. 2018, Mueller will get Trump. 2019, remember Avenatti, who's currently in the federal prison system right now? Avenatti will get Trump. 2020, A.G. James will get Trump. 21, A.G. Garland will get Trump. 22, Smith probe will get Trump. D.A. Fannie Willis will get Trump in 2023. And 2024, Alvin Bragg will get Trump. It didn't work out that way, huh? Well, let's see what got Letitia James into this situation.
He's called me venomous. We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City. He's called me disgraceful. Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court. He's called me radical. Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together. He's called me a racist. We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Can you imagine? Think with me for a second. Can you imagine if someone that looks like me stood before a crowd and said, we have to go after so-and-so because they're too black? Can you imagine the outrage, the threat to my person that I would suffer as a result of that? Why do we allow this type of garbage? Why is this allowed in our country? I don't understand this. And folks, when you're an attorney, you have what's called ethical canons, basically a code of conduct you have to follow. What is going on in New York City? Why is campaigning saying I'm going to take down a particular person and their family and their kids? Why is that not a violation of their oath to be an attorney? You don't have a right to be an attorney. It's a privilege. You have to be licensed by your particular bar in the particular state that you reside in, that you're looking to get a license for. What is this about? This is nonsense. And I just have to say the obvious. You notice the people behind her, at least several of them, they're white? What? You got white people standing there smiling and cheering like the goof to her left. What? Am I the only one that thinks I'm in the Twilight Zone sometimes? What is going on?
Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Thank you.
Unbelievable. That is the world we live in right now, my friends. And let's talk about our friend John Bolton. Ex-Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton indicted on charges of mishandling classified information. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, right? We're just going to hit the highlights of this. A federal grand jury indicted former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. 18 counts of illegally hoarding or sending sensitive information. And I think there's a really good chance you're going to see what's called a superseding indictment. Not only on him, but on Letitia James, by the way. They're not done with her. I can assure you that. Here is the actual indictment. We're not going to read it, but it's 26 pages long on Bolton. This is going to be a serious problem for him. And there's video, a lot of video of Bolton out there talking about in relation to Donald Trump, just gleeful that he was in trouble, that there was the raid that happened to his home at Mar-a-Lago. And he just ecstatic. And his comments were, hey, this type of behavior has to be punished. A message has to be sent. That's not my words, folks. That's the word of John Bolton. It's just terrible, right?
But first, it is time for the hot topic of the hour. The Department of Justice is seeking the removal of the lead defense attorney for former FBI Director James Comey, citing a conflict of interest over a years-long relationship between Comey and that attorney. Prosecutors claim that Comey used his counsel to disclose classified information shortly after President Trump fired him during his first term. Yesterday, Comey's team filed motions to dismiss the case, arguing that he was charged out of the president's, quote, personal spite. He's facing charges for allegedly lying in 2020 Senate.
Oh, trust me, my friends. Oh, Comey, he is in serious, serious trouble. I don't care what the talking heads say. This is pretty black and white as far as charges go. Exhibit A is going to be him restating that his testimony was something he stood behind and he was swearing to under oath that the testimony was truthful. And of course, that's what the government is alleging, that it was not truthful. He can try to file motions saying it's selective prosecution or whatever nonsense. I predict clearly, even though it's a Biden judge, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. I don't see any judge allowing him to walk out of there scot-free, period. And what is this talk you hear about all over the media that President Trump said this about the case? It tainted it. President Trump put his thumb on the scale of justice. That's President Trump's job. That's one of his many jobs. President Trump is the embodiment of the executive branch. That's his job. Sure, he has an attorney general, but this so-called separation of the president and the attorney general is only hypothetical. There's no law that requires that. The president, ladies and gentlemen, is the executive branch of government, the enforcing branch of government. It is the president's job to weigh in on who to prosecute and who not to prosecute, as to what direction to take the country in relation to the Department of Justice and what they will investigate and not investigate it. And finally, I've heard President Trump starting to use a little bit of language like I'm using right now. The truth has to be said. And the truth is, President Trump has every single right to weigh in and decide who gets prosecuted and who does not. He doesn't have to sit back and, I don't know. I haven't discussed it. Like somehow that's taboo or that's a problem. No, that's his job. That's what the American people elected him to do, is be head of the government. He's the head of the executive branch, period. Full stop, end of case. And you probably heard the recent news, more and more good news, right? This is on the X account of Representative Jim Jordan. He says, John Brennan lied to Congress today. We refer to him the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Amen to that and amen. You're going to read the basic here on this right here. This is, of course, from this particular representative. We write to Dear Attorney General Bonding. We write to refer significant evidence that a former director of Central Intelligence, a.k.a. the CIA, John Brennan, knowingly made false statements during his transcribed interview before the Committee on the Judiciary on May 11, 2023. While testifying, Brennan made numerous willfully and intentionally false statements of material fact that contradicted by record established by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the HBSCI, and the CIA. Translation: they caught this guy lying and they're going after him. Too bad they can't go after him from that Russia nonsense, because he said under oath, hey, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't sway whatever happened one way or the other. He lied about it all. And it can be proven. I think the problem with that, there might be some type of statute of limitations, but I'm going to go on the limb here first. I don't think it's over with yet. I think that they may eventually put some kind of grand RICO case. The same thing they try to stick down President Trump's throat. They're going to use the same tools. They're going to try, at least, to make a RICO case that gets everybody in one fishnet. I'm talking from Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade, Letitia James, John Brennan, all these people that conspired to bring down Donald Trump recently and in his first administration. And the good news with that, the good news is that when you have RICO, I believe the statute of limitations is at least 20 years. I'll have to check on that, but it's a lot longer wick, if you know what I mean, as far as time frame goes on. You want to talk about hypocrisy? take a look. Take a look at the way the news has been trying to spin this, all these cases, the revenge, so to speak, pertaining to President Trump. Then we'll talk about it here in just 1 second. It's just kind of humorous.
And again, because you talked about it in a piece, what I've been warning about, what I've been warning Republicans about, because they love to say, oh, we're owning the libs. No, you're taking a hammer to the 2027 and 2029 version of yourself, a ball-peen hammer, and you're hammering yourself in the forehead. Like, the things they are doing now will be used against them by a progressive president or an independent megalomaniac who is a billionaire who becomes president of the United States. They are setting precedents for an all-powerful president, which they're fine right now because it's their guy doing it. But as you write in Axios, they're setting precedents that rip to shreds the constitutional norms that they've gone around yelling about for 50 years, whether it's, Article 1 powers like we did back when we were in power there to say, hey, we've got the right to balance the budget, or whether it's you pick whatever they were once champions of that they've abandoned. They're hurting themselves. This will come back to haunt them.
Did you hear that?
Let's take it above.
This will come back to haunt them. The hypocrisy, the nerve of these people is just staggering, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely staggering. It's going to come back and haunt them. Are you kidding me? It was the Biden administration that first started with this lawfare. They had President Donald Trump in court all the time. We saw him day in and day out in New York City in that sham trial. I mean, come on. What do you mean? That President Trump is setting the precedents that this is going to happen in the future? What have I been talking about ever since the Biden administration started this? When a president leaves office now, they're going to have to issue blanket pardons for anyone and everyone associated with the administration. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So, Joe Scarborough, guess what? We don't care if you got your facts wrong, sir, and you know it. And that is, it's already happened. It happened to President Trump. You just don't want to admit it, or you don't want to see it. So I don't think President Trump was worried about a future administration. He lived it, he experienced it, and now, rightly so, it's time for payback. I think that's probably about the easiest, most clear-cut way to look at it. What do you guys think? You agree, disagree? Put in the comments. I want to hear it. Let me check our comments real quick here. Let's see. Yeah, Sapphire, my friend, you're right. The new Prime Minister of Japan is like Georgia. She said yesterday, every Muslim will be deported. Yeah, that's that new prime minister coming into power in Japan. It cannot be soon enough. American Nana, you are making me hungry sitting here. Homemade carrot cake. I love carrot cake. Thank you for letting us know that. That sounds absolutely delicious. They tried to kill him. So yes, very good point, American Nana. Exactly. They've done everything you could almost possibly do to a human being when you think about it. I mean, they have been relentless on this guy, on President Trump. So, Patriots, as we wrap up tonight's show, remember this: the battle for America's soul is far from over. This is not about politics. At least I should say it's not just about politics. It's about truth versus deception, courage versus corruption, and light versus darkness. I would even say it's good versus evil. We saw today how the left continues to lie, spin, and gaslight each one of us. But through it all, President Trump keeps standing tall, reminding us that faith, perseverance, and love of country will win in the end. The swamp can lie, the media can twist everything, but the truth always finds a way through. And I think that's 100% on mark. I want to leave you with this verse tonight. This comes from the book of Isaiah. I always like to use the King James Version of the Bible, 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. How about that, huh? This verse couldn't be more true tonight. I mean, Boom, a perfect verse to close out tonight. Because what we're seeing, this woke and wacky confusion, this upside down world, this is exactly what happens when truth is rejected. But thank God we're awake, we're united, and we're fighting back with truth and conviction. As President Trump says, we all have to fight, fight, fight. So stand tall, my friends. Keep your faith strong, and never forget the greatest revival this nation will ever see is one born from the courage of the free-minded patriots like you, like each and every one of you. May God bless you. May God bless President Donald J. Trump, and may God forever, may you each and every one know forever the blessings that God has in store for you, and may God always bless this great country we call the United States of America. I like to always say, my friends, keep that mind free, never give up, and until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.